I'm Amanda C. Miller. I'm a voice actress for Sailor Jupiter in Sailor Moon Crystal and the Viz redub of the classic series. I'm Boruto in Boruto, and I am the video game counterpart of this chick right here, Junko Enoshima in the Danganronpa video games. Mm-hmm. In Fire Emblem Awakening, I'm Sully. So, there you go.
I'm Jamie Marchi. I'm Junko in the anime. We were talking that we should have a panel where it's Junko versus Junko, but then we just really do each other's hair like the whole time. There's no hate there. Sorry. And then let's see, what else am I? I'm Ellie in Borderlands 2, Freya and Smite, Panty and Stocking, Rias Gremory. I'm a Panty. I'm two, Panties. Well, I guess it's not two. It's just one because the panty is one of those words. Anyway, and I'm in a lot of things. I'm over 300 characters.
On your, is it on your IMDb or Anime News Network or what?
I'm not sure.
Where do you go to find out the number?
To your local neighborhood stalker. They keep track of that. and then you know. And then you know.
If you don't have a stalker, maybe you
she
can.
does.
She does.
She does.
Okay. You have plenty.
Ask your stalker.
He's right behind that curtain. Just kidding.
Serious though, if you're her stalker, let her know. You might be in here. I don't know.
I need to know how many titles.
Anyway, so yeah, that's. Oh, I also write. I write script adaptations for lots of shows as well.
My name is Stephanie Shea, and I do the voice of Sailor Moon in Sailor Moon Crystal and the Viz redub. I voice Hinata in Naruto, Orihime, and Bleach. I work on the Gundam series a lot. I'm currently directing Gundam The Origin and Gundam Thunderbolt. And I was in Your Name, which was a very cool movie. And
I thought you just insulted them.
I was in Your Name.
Your mom.
Actually, weird, funny side story. I went in for a callback at Nickelodeon, and the director, who I'd met one time, over a year ago, who I did not expect him to remember me. When I went in, he went, "Your name?" And I was like, "Oh, Stephanie Shea?" And then he was like, "No, the movie! Congratulations!" So it was a little funny. I didn't even know that he knew who I was. So that was kind of cool. And I also do some writing and some casting and some directing. I started out producing anime dubbing before I became a voice actor.
Man, that's awesome. I just do voices and stuff.
Yeah, for just a couple of 3 things.
Let's see. I'm Black Star and Soul Eater, Icarus and Heaven's Lost Property, Wendy and Fairy Tale, Migi and Parasite. And there's
Yamada.
Yamada. And she wrote the script for Yamada.
I'm partial to that character.
Which was amazing.
She's not lying, it was.
Honestly, her script made that show. I'm just saying.
Thanks. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite panel ever.
But yes, so anime.
Anime.
Do you guys have questions? Because we will just talk about our periods if you don't have questions.
Yeah. We were literally talking about our periods over there.
Man, the hands go up quickly.
Things dangling.
Anybody need a bucket to vomiting at this moment?
Stand up so I can see.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Nick.
Nick.
What's your question?
Well, I was just wondering if you have a role that you regret doing or would redo in a different voice if possible.
No. No, definitely not.
I think I just trust that the director knows what they want to hear and that, they're sending it through enough people that are going to go through that and decide if they like it or not. There are times that I have redone a voice and changed it. That's happened before.
Yeah. I just feel like I don't know, there's something, especially as an actor, you have to accept your performance and move on. If you obsess over it, if you look back on it, you have a tendency to tear yourself down, and we are delicate, fragile flowers. Yes. So if we're already our worst enemy, if we start tearing ourselves down because of past performances that we can't change, then we will ruin our future performances because we start doubting ourselves. So I'm just not a big believer in being that critical of past work because I can't change it. I can learn and I can and move forward, but I don't want to ever regret a performance I did because I know in those moments I'm always giving my best performance.
Yeah, I am that critical all the time of myself.
I was going to say, Jamie, you're much more mature and evolved than I am.
Yeah.
No, I just go to a lot of therapy.
That's what I stopped going to therapy. I need to go back.
It really helps to not.
All the
do
cool
that.
kids do it.
I need to go, like once.
It's so nice. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like there's not like a role I regret doing, or at least not yet. I don't know. I'm sure there are some where you're like, it's not like on camera where you're like, I wish I hadn't showed my boobies on camera. Like it's not anything like that.
And still, if your boobies are good enough to show on camera, why regret that? Show
But
them.
like Daenerys Targaryen was like, I wish I hadn't done that because now I don't get the same respect my co-stars get. So like that's different.
Everybody shows their boobs on that show, and even if they haven't, I think they have.
Dude,
In your head?
the extras show the boobies on the show.
Yes.
Right.
Which I don't think it's not that necessary. I think it's a little bit gratuitous.
I feel like maybe some people feel like their boobs are more memorable than they are.
Honey.
I don't really remember that. Love her butt.
You're a butt lady. Anyway, sorry. Is this PG? Like, what's the rating of this panel?
Like scanning the
Welcome
crowd.
to it, guys.
Okay.
I see some young
Okay.
people.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I don't regret any roles per se, but there are definitely times where I'll look back and be like, I wish I had been more on my voice. Or like when I was younger, like I did a play recently, and since I did a play, my voice is more present in a lot of the things that I'm recording. And then I hear things beforehand, and I was like, oh man, I wish I had been projecting a little bit more. I wish I hadn't been so like in my chest or in my throat. Like so, like I regret that, I guess. But it's more like a learning thing to be like, okay, next
But
time.
that's perfect, right? You want to start somewhere and you want to end, because if you stay the same your entire career, you're never
I'm
growing.
fine staying the
So-
same if I'm perfect the whole time.
But
Right.
nobody's perfect, so there
That's
you
right.
go. That's the
Challenge
that
accepted.
is the catch. I definitely have regrets, but I guess it's a little column A and column B. I think there's stuff that I look back, I guess, and I'm like, but I don't hold on to it. I don't sit there and obsess about it. So yeah, there's always things that I wish I could do better, or that I did better at. But for the most part, I'm not like sitting there beating myself up about it.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the next question? Where's our...
Hi, my name's Michael. I was wondering, is it ever difficult to go and do voices that are opposite of how your own personality is? Like Brittney, you did Black Star, which is a pretty energetic, cranky guy, and Jamie, you've done Junko, who is a pretty into herself diva type. So is it ever difficult?
That's Jamie, though.
That's Jamie.
I'm kidding.
You just described me to myself. I don't understand your question.
Shit, I might be a
She had eight. She had like 8 different personalities, so we can go.
Yeah, so is it ever difficult with doing characters that are matching your personality or against your personality?
Well, for me, the ones that are opposite or not necessarily me are more fun.
Yeah.
The more you get to play around, it's playing pretend, right? And who wants to play the pretend version of themselves? Like, don't get me wrong, that's still great. It's still, great to be cast that way. But when you get the chance to be something totally different, so much fun. Like, I've been a parrot that curses. Amazing. So for me, those that go out and are extreme or maybe have multiple personalities, Junko's one of my favorite characters that I've ever played because of that. So for me, I prefer it. I prefer the wackadoodles.
I feel like it's more fun to play things that you aren't, but at the same time, I have a very hard time with certain personality types. So like, I hate it when they want me to play a character that's like naive or dumb.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because I very much pride myself
The
on being
moe?
smart. Yeah, they're very like,
I can't do it.
But the thing is, if they're smart, then it's different. But like, I have a really hard time playing those without sounding sarcastic. Like, they're like, can you get the
Yeah, me
snark
too.
out of your voice? I'm like, no, I can't. I literally can't.
This is it. Oh, I wish I could bake well.
Right,
Like,
it's like,
no one will ever believe that this
I
voice
wish
means
I had
that.
a husband like it's just like
One day I'll make a perfect wife.
Right.
Like, yeah, I don't get cast in that for the same reason.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with those types of characters.
because they pay
Because they
rent.
pay. I wish I could, but I just.
No, I think it's because I try not to think of them as dumb. Like, I try to think of them as like super impressed with everything. You like
Oh, that's a good way to
super
look at it.
fascinated with everything, right? So that's
Childlike.
childlike wonder, and that comes all across as dumb sometimes,
It's just innocent.
Yeah, it's innocent. I play the innocence or something else, or that they're focused and they're distracted on whatever they are. Like Orihime is very much like that, and Yui from K-on's like that. So, but I don't think of them as dumb. But I think if I thought of, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good like way to look at the positive instead of the judgmental aspect.
They're like, what are the other characters? Can I do one of those instead?
Yeah,
Because that's generally, because I just can't, I try and it just
You're
comes
like,
off
nope.
sarcastic.
But you're not the I have friends, voice actor friends, who have the same kind of issue. They don't like playing the ingenue. They just because they have a disgust for that type of personality,
Right.
and then it kind of comes through. Like
Right.
it's
You
just-
can hear it,
You
even
can
if
hear
they're
it.
trying to
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
My agent doesn't bring me in for certain commercials anymore for like jewelry because I hate jewelry commercials because like for the radio they're always like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't have. I love you so much, and it's like because he got you something that's overpriced and stupid. Like you could have bought a down payment.
What
on a
about
house.
Old Navy? Are you reading for Old Navy? Because there's a lot of like.
Oh, my fashion emergency.
Yeah,
I feel like those I do. I never book those. But
Just for the record, if anyone wants to buy me something overpriced and stupid, I
Yeah,
will
go
book
ahead
you.
for me.
Absolutely.
you can give me a down payment
Absolutely
on a
love
house, but don't
overpriced
spend-
stupid jewelry.
No, I mean, if you can, fine. But get me a house too.
What about you,
house
Brittany?
Right.
I actually enjoy playing. I mean, I play a lot of those characters. I think
Right.
generally that's one of the main things that I started doing anime. It was always the ditzy, empty girl. Even when I was on stage, I always was like Philia. And a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. I was always
Right.
those kind of characters.
Well, like, see, Ditzy is a little different because I can do, like, that's fine.
Like
there's some-
empty-headed is the way I
Yeah.
look at it. Just missing pieces.
Vacant.
Just missing a couple bolts.
Philia is a good example. Doesn't
Yeah.
she have that song? Do you guys know musicals at all?
Yay,
Do you know a
3
funny
people.
thing happened on the way to the forum?
Her song is "I'm Lovely."
Doesn't she also have that duet where she gets betrothed to the guy that she's not in love with,
Yeah.
and then she goes to the guy that she's in love with, and she goes, "It's okay, I have a master plan. I'm gonna really give it to this other guy that I'm betrothed to, because every single time I kiss him, I'm be thinking about you. So I'm gonna kiss him twice as much." Like the lyrics are like that, and it goes on and on for a whole song.
Yeah.
Here's
It's great.
why I
She's
like
nothing
that
but
is because
lovely.
that's funny.
If it's funny, it's okay. If
It's
it's
funny, it's
pure,
okay.
sincere, just like,
If
then
it's
it's
played
just
for
not.
humor versus like, no, this is how I actually think women are.
Yeah, if it's like a weakness that's inherent in the character that
I
there's
don't
not,
think there's
it's
so
not
many
interesting.
women in anime that is how the women are though. Like there's not like that. I don't know. Most of the time when I do animes, especially harem shows, no actual people act like that. I don't know. I've never met like 12 girls chasing after one middle school boy. I've never seen that happen before. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of look at it as it's an imaginary world. And
Wait, you're being sarcastic, right?
no, I'm like, what?
That's
this
the whole
is an
genre of
example.
anime.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's
But she's saying it's imaginary. You can
Yeah,
imagine.
Oh,
it's not
I
a
see what
real
you're saying.
thing.
Like, okay, you're
nobody
saying you've
actually
never met
acts
that
that
in
way.
real life.
Yeah,
so you don't-
nobody.
Yeah,
does.
no,
That's
if
not a
12
real
girls are
thing
going
that
to
ever
follow
happens.
anyone, it's going to be a Michael Tatum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, I've seen those crowds. Those are scary crowds.
They really
y'all.
are. They really are.
I feel like maybe there's more of that in LA. I don't know.
Yeah.
more like the ditzy girls who are like, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I would get cast a lot in film as that. That was almost all my auditions were like some topless whatever, and I never booked them because I don't actually act like that. And they'd always like bring me in for a teenager and then go, wait, how old are you? Like every time, and I'm just
With
like,
that disgust in their voice?
well, yeah, I guess they just, a lot of times would expect a 16-year-old girl, and I'm like, no, I'm 27.
Yeah.
Like,
You're so old. Oh, my God.
no, I'm
How do
not
you-
27 right now.
How do you wake up
I'm
every
31.
day? Oh, you're so
Ew,
old.
gross.
How do you wake up with yourself?
It was hard work.
Yeah.
Aging.
Okay, so I guess we're done with that question.
It's actually my first panel ever, so.
Welcome to our panel.
I'm sorry.
Hey, it's fine with me. I actually had a question for all of y'all, I guess, since we're doing that all thing. What's your favorite line out of any of the, pick your favorite show, genre, whatever, and what's your favorite line?
Let's see, it's like a daytime crowd.
Yeah, I know, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't know.
We might need some thinking music for this.
We can't say a lot of them because it's
Yeah.
a family
Wait,
audience.
all your favorite lines are dirty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they would be your favorite lines.
Afternoon, so.
It's 5
No,
o'clock
we have
somewhere, so
minors.
let's just
we
drop
have
our
minors
F-bombs.
in the
Yeah,
audience.
we have baby.
But I can't even remember a favorite line. They actually just escape my head.
There's one from
can
Hunter x
bleep 'em
Hunter
out.
where I
Bleep it
remember.
out.
I didn't mean to dumbfound
I feel like this one's not like on the
You said
top tier of
dumbfounded,
swear
like-
words. It's like the lower tier.
Okay.
Well,
do
why
a
don't
lower
you just,
tier.
we'll bleep you.
Yeah, you bleep yourself.
No, that's boring.
I just cussed at her. Did you get it? You bleep yourself.
Bleep and go.
But sometimes it'll sound worse. So like, my favorite line, I'll bleep it so you can see what I'm talking about. So what happens if I just accidentally the janitor? That's one of my favorite lines. See?
But my dad does that and it annoys the crap out of me.
Oh, he's
he
not
doesn't
here.
he doesn't swear. And so
Oh.
he'll be like, and then
Does he have a replacement word?
no, he just goes silent. So he'll be like, and then the guy said, well, and then I'm gonna knock your off.
Oh.
It's just like, Dad, say the word.
So say a different word instead. Say.
That.
Cucumber.
There's a line from Hunter x Hunter where basically she like grabs this guy. and
Cucumber.
I can't.
Cucumber. If you want to shorten that to dick, that'll work.
Okay. Defeats the whole purpose. And
Eggplant. I don't know.
She says something like she like grabs and she's like, I'm gonna knock your teeth out your ass.
Ass?
Yeah,
I think you can say
that's
ass.
That's the lower tier
She
word.
can
She's
say
like,
ass,
knock
right?
your teeth out, and I'm gonna knock your teeth out your ass. And for some reason,
That's a
the
good
imagery
line.
was like, that's delightful.
His
One,
butt has teeth?
No, she's gonna hit him so hard it's gonna knock his teeth down through his digestive tract. They're gonna go through the big intestine and then go all the way
I
out
see.
the
Okay.
other end.
yeah, digestive issues is what that
Like
is.
how the last thing the flies sees is their own butt when they hit a windshield. Like,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it goes
Never
through their
thought
eyes.
about that.
Because it goes through their eyes. My favorite line that I have ever written was for Monica in Panty and Stocking, and I can say this. It's, you keep talking, but all I hear is syphilis.
Do we have another question?
Oh, wait, I have
Oh,
one.
you have one? You have one? Okay.
I have one
Because
that's PG enough. I can do
one
Black
right
Stars. My favorite line that Black Star does because that's PG enough to do. But that's not really my favorite line. Is that Sid's grave? We should piss on it. That was the one.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So, I know you guys have all been in voice acting for different periods of time, but how do you feel women in anime have changed over the course of the years?
There is a panel about women in anime. That's a good way to start that. You know, I think anime has changed a lot too. Back in the day, it was a man's show, right? There were mostly male characters. And so now we have a lot of shows with not only female characters, but female characters that are strong and independent and individual, and they're not complete stereotypes. And it's becoming more and more of that, which is fantastic. So I think in that way, it's definitely changing for the better because we're here.
I'm like super old, and I've been working in this industry for a really long time. I think that the shape of the industry has changed a lot more than the content of the industry. And I think that has a lot to do with like the fandom, especially fandom in Japan, is a certain makeup and tends to be a certain makeup, and they tend to like a certain type of storytelling and a certain type of character archetype. And while there definitely has progressed, you know, in the writing and the storytelling and stuff like that, there's ways to go. But I think the thing that I see the most of is that now, you know, when I was working, there were very few women writers. There were very, very few women directors. There was Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And now there are a ton of women directors. And that is very, very awesome because they are more sensitive to dealing with subject matter if they're directing a harem anime or if there is a character that doesn't have much depth, that seems a little bit too empty-headed or flighty. They can bring a point of view that makes that character a little bit more well-rounded, or they can kind of shape the localization so that it's not just a very surfacey, fan servicey, ditzy, you know, vocal candy thing, you know. So I think that's huge.
An example of that, too, is a lot of the reverse harems. The female lead is usually a very empty space, and it's designed that way so that the women who watch it can imagine themselves in that character's role. But here, if we see a character that's that much of a blank space, we're like, why would anybody be attracted to this vacant human being, right? So with, women writing and women directing that, you can fill it and make it an actual character that women can still see themselves as that character and yet like and appreciate for who she is as an individual. It's a complete, yeah. But I also think, interestingly, we have way more female fans.
Oh, yeah, that's totally true.
Than back in the day, because like 15 years for me.
And let's all clap for the dudes that came to a women in anime panel.
Yes, thank you.
Yay! Love it. Love it. What I do find interesting, though, is some of the female fandom, only appreciates the male voice actors. And that, I think, is something that we have to change. Women have to stand up for other women. And so, to have someone, and not to say anything, Michael Tatum's one of my favorite humans and best friends, but to be on a panel with him and having women only ask him questions about a show that I'm in just as much as he is, that I wrote, really is a reminder that the men are getting the attention. And I don't know why.
You're completely right, I think. Yeah, that is a thing I have seen. There are many more men that come up to my autograph table than women.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is. It's something about, like, there's just two types of women that build other women up and then women that don't. And I don't know. I hope that does change.
They're lost in the fandom for the men, and it's been such a culture of, look at these men who do these, play these characters, and we love these male characters. We also love the female characters, but not as much. And I don't know. It's like, I think it's complicated, but it's interesting to see that with all the female fans, where we feel the love of the women in the industry. It's just interesting that some, and they're usually younger, flock to the boys, and it's like,
I think they just have a crush on Tatum.
Yeah.
right. That's true.
I mean, which I don't,
That's true. I mean, it could be, pick a guy, but Monica is a great example. Monica Rial is the she has done more anime roles than any other woman, female anime roles, than any other woman on the planet, ever. If you put her in a panel or put her in an autograph line next to Todd or Vic or, Sean, Schimmel, they will always have bigger lines. And it's like, she has the record. She has the evidence of work, of years and years and years of work, and the characters to prove it. But those guys will always have more women in their lines. It's interesting. I don't know why.
I do think it's really cool, though. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What you were saying about the directors and the writers and how that's changed. It really has. That's really true. Now there's a ton. I remember old ADV was all men.
Yeah.
I mean, it was men directors, men engineers, men writers. Everybody that ran the company was a man. There's Janice, and that's it. You know what I mean? And Janice was just holding her own as hard as she could because she was outnumbered there.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting how that has changed.
Yeah.
I'm curious if it's also the audience demographic could also be that I don't know, are the women in some of these shows characters that aren't as relatable? I'm trying to think of why.
I don't know.
I seriously think it's just a celebrity crush thing.
Right.
I think it's just that because I've seen some of the female fans of these voice actors and it's beyond just being a fan of the show or the character.
I want you to be
Right.
my
Yeah,
boyfriend.
it's like a fantasy, ooh, you know what I mean? They have a little crush on them.
Right.
So I don't know how you separate that. I mean,
it's interesting. It's just a weird
I would be interested in looking at the general Comic Con guests, from TV and demographic, and see how that breaks down, and if that's a societal thing or if that's an anime thing.
Right. Yeah, that would
don't
be
know.
interesting to see.
Because I would say Sailor Moon is pretty evenly split, but that's, I think, the subject
I
matter
actually
is
think
Yeah.
I get a lot more girls in my line for Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon, I think, is a different.
But I think
Yeah.
it's different. It's a very girl empowerment show.
Right.
And there's a bunch of guys that come through my line
That's
as
what
well.
I'm saying is it's not all girls. Like
Right.
it's actually pretty interesting that there's a
Yeah.
lot of guys who like Sailor Moon, which I am so like I find that so
That's
endearing.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is
Because
awesome.
you know, growing up, my guy friends never wanted to watch shows with girls, but like girls have to watch shows with guys and like identify through them. So it's nice
Right.
that there's guys who are like, nah, screw that. Sailor Moon was cool, or Sailor Jupiter was my favorite. Like I just am so
Yeah.
like, yay, this is so cool.
It's good.
Off topic.
It's okay for
Sorry.
guys. to
Next
have feelings
question.
now.
Sorry about that. That like we got all
We'll
serious.
be talking about this later tonight.
serious.
Well, hi, my name is Brandy. My question goes for all of you. When it comes to certain characters, do you go and read the manga or watch, for like, I guess, Stephanie and Amanda, do you go and watch the old versions or original versions of the show to do research on that character, or do you just go out and wing it? Or like, you know, watch the original sub versions of the show, I guess, just do research and see like how that character, you know, interaction is to see how you would play that character.
I mean, I grew up watching Sailor Moon back.
She's like, I did my research
So-
like 20 years ago.
It was I've been researching for about 20 years, my dissertation.
It's very well researched.
But yeah, like if it's a character like, you know, for like Boruto, I like definitely like tried to go back and watch a bunch of Naruto, and I tried to watch as much as I could find legally, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I wasn't.
Legally?
Legally, you did it legally, yeah.
Yeah, I did it legally. But because they don't really send you the details. They're not like, here's the movie if you want to watch it before we dub it, like so you can get an idea. It's just kind of, usually you just show up, but if it's a big character, I do want to do it justice, and so I will try to do the research.
I generally don't. I used to. When I started voice acting, I totally did. I would. Is it really? Oh. Oh. But it's
AC.
pretty. I never looked up. Okay. Anyway,
We're easily distracted.
like squirrel. But I used to. Anytime I got cast in something, I would go online. I'd watch all of it beforehand, and you know that because I came from fandom. But nowadays, I'm just way too busy. I mean, I'm still. Oh my gosh! I mean, I think I've like 4 episodes into Capaldi as the Doctor. That's how far behind I'm at, and like all of my television shows, I just don't watch anything hardly anymore because I don't have time. And also nowadays, a lot of the stuff is much more recent and harder to find, you know, to watch beforehand. Yeah, so generally speaking, no. Although for Crystal, after we had already started dubbing classic Sailor Moon, I did watch half of the first season of Crystal before we started Crystal. So.
Yeah, I'd say most of the time no. But if I know about what the show is, I will. A lot of times you don't even get the real show title in the sides. You just get a picture of a character. And I'll be like auditioning out of town. I don't even have a director. So, I mean, I don't, there's not any research I can do. It'll just like, you know, have some funky title on it. But I remember with Migi for Parasite the Maxim, I did go and look that up. And the reason why was because it had already been made and I could access it, first of all, legally. And second of all, because they wanted, in this particular case, they had auditioned a ton of people, and I was supposed to be going in to record a different role, and Brittney Deans was like, hey, can you audition for Migi? And I was like, sure. So I just like went in my car and looked up a bunch of crap. And because they wanted it to sound like the Japanese as close as possible for that one. So I just, yeah, that one I did research. That's the only one, I think.
I mean, when we when we record, we watch it in the Japanese before we record it.
Do you do a lot of voices and scripts that you write? Because that's kind of a nice prep.
It really is. If I get cast in a show I've written, every line I've gone over 5 or 6 times. So it's like I've already practiced it multiple times. So the director likes it because they don't have to explain what's going on in the scene. They don't have to tell me anything I already know. I know the whole history. I know everything that's going
Wait,
on.
I have a question for you. So then, does the audition process generally happen after you've started writing or
Yes.
before you started writing? Okay.
Yeah, so I get a
got a
heads up
little
on the
bit of a
audition
leg
too.
up, yeah,
And
that's
that's
cool.
if they're doing auditions. With the broadcast dubs, they don't really do that. It's just like, are you going to be here? So I can let all of the. I feel like an air conditioner is just going to fall out of the
I
sky.
know.
It's very
So
Danganronpa.
yeah, right. I'm like, I don't want to go that way. But anyway, yeah, because the broadcast dubs are so fast, they just want to know if you're in town, and then they kind of, can plug in people. Sometimes they get to have auditions, sometimes they don't. But with writing the broadcast dubs, we don't get to watch it ahead of time. So if there is a manga, I like to read the manga as much as I can beforehand, because I have nothing. Normally, if you were writing a show, you get to see the whole series first, so that you know how, like it ends, character development, things like that. Important. Is that girl actually a boy, or vice versa? Things that you need to know. And so we don't always get that information. So the manga really helps with that. However, if we have the whole show, I prefer to stay true to the show, because I'm sure we can all name times that perhaps the anime isn't exactly like the manga. And the fact of the matter is, when I'm writing anime, I'm staying true to the anime. So sometimes with the broadcast dubs, it gets mixed up because I'm, reading and watching. But if I'm performing in something, no, because also I don't have time. But there is also that level of, you've got to respect your director. And I think sometimes if you watch too much of the show, you can make a mistake and get preconceived notions of what you think it's about, instead of letting the director lead you, which is very important. So
It's true, because I guess also there's some companies that want you to be very, very true to the Japanese, and then there's other ones that are like, no, I want you to localize it for an American audience. So
Right.
I've seen that where in the Japanese, the character might be a little bit more, I don't know, shy, but in America, they kind of make her more deadpan, or something that translates for our audience.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
I have a question for the audience, okay? Because I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the audience for anime has kind of changed a little bit. When I first started doing conventions, dub actors didn't get invited to conventions because they were like gum on your shoe, because they only wanted the Japanese guests. And there was a huge, I know the sub versus dub debate still lives on in the dark
Twitterverse.
corners of Reddit. But for the most part, it's been squashed. If you like the subtitle, watch the subtitles. If you like the dub, watch the dub, because we have DVDs now.
Right.
But I know when it comes to adaptation, back in the day, it was a huge thing that dubs changed way too much of the adaptation. And so most people were like, most audience members, fans were like, no, we want to keep it as close to Japanese as possible. I feel like nowadays the audience has kind of changed their opinion a little bit, so that they're okay with a little bit of the adaptation. Like, nothing too crazy, but they're not going to get their panties in a bunch if the words aren't exactly the same and the voices sound exactly. I think vocally they probably want something similar. But I wanted to ask you guys what your opinion was on that. Oh, wait, you can't all talk at once.
What do you think?
Well, with me, I'm currently watching the second season of Attack on Titan. I don't know if you guys have dubbed that yet, but so I have no problems if I watch the sub versions of it, because I can read fast. My husband has problems with reading, and I got him into anime, and he loves Attack on Titan, so he has to keep asking me, well, what are they saying? I don't understand, because he can't read as fast. So I think the dubbed versions are good for people, like my husband, because he can't read those subtitles, so he's going to be clueless even though he could see what's on the screen. He has no idea what the dialogue is.
But my question is, do you guys, as dub viewers, I'm assuming you guys watch dubs because you're here, right? Yeah. That do you prefer
Any sub haters in the house?
Do you prefer something that is exactly strictly close, as close as possible to the Japanese, or are you okay to change a joke or two so that it makes more sense to an American
cultural
audience?
I think personally, I like the slight change because the cultures are different. Sometimes things get lost in translation, and I think when you guys work on the script, you make it more adaptable to us as an audience and how we think and speak. Because if it's the exact dub, it may not sound normal, how we normally speak. But that's just my opinion. What do you think?
I like when they stay pretty true to the Japanese, except when it's times like a character might make a reference to some really old Japanese show that like people in Japan know about that, but like over here we're just like don't get it. So then in the English adaptation, it's nice when that's kind of changed so then we can still understand the joke like you were saying.
What else? What do you think?
I mean, I like the Japanese, like keeping some of that, but I feel like for the most part, for me, it's easier to relate to a lot of characters when it's changed for an American audience because I feel like a lot of times I can't relate to a Japanese character when they're speaking Japanese and they're Japanese references and it's the entire culture is different. So I feel like I enjoy it better when it feels like more like a character I could actually understand or like talk to or something like that. So for that reason, I prefer the dub a lot, and a lot of the times the changes I prefer that they make for the dub.
I know for me, my brother and I, we've been watching anime since forever. But I guess when it comes to certain characters that you grow up with, like Sailor Moon or, like Naruto, now Boruto, when it comes to, I'll use Sailor Moon as an example, when it comes to her, she always had kind of like that ditzy, crybaby kind of attitude. So for a lot of sub viewers, when you grow up watching certain characters behave a certain way and act and sound a certain way, and when you finally do get a dub, if it's something completely different, it does upset you a lot because it's like, this is not what I was expecting. This is not what I'm used to hearing. But so I guess it's a lot easier to adapt when it is closer to the Japanese original character because it makes it easier to still love the character, because that's just who the character is. Like if Stephanie came and, sounded like a crybaby when it came to Sailor Moon, and Sailor Moon was like, I'm going to save the world all the day, and, very strong and powerful. It was like, whoa, that's not who Serena is. So staying true to the character, but also making it modernized to today's time is very, very important in my opinion.
Just real quick, could you save the world while crying? I just want to hear it.
Actually, she does in the first episode. Like her crying, causes chaos among the villains.
Really?
So yeah, just
that's fantastic.
FYI.
I just wanted in my heart, I want to hear you be like, I'm gonna save everything.
Oh, you want me to say?
I want you to.
You're that person in the line.
I just
She's
want really annoying. She's very annoying.
I'm ready.
She's like, it's like that kind of cry.
I love it. I just wanted to get a dose of it.
How many of you guys watch the subtitled versions? To raise your hand. And then how many of you guys watch both subs and dubs? I guess you will watch it and then how many of you guys only watch the dub? Oh, so most of you guys watch both. Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I will say, from my perspective as a writer making adaptations, that's my job, is I'm adapting it for an American audience. So there are certain things that I will never include, and those are huge cultural differences. For example, any kind of gay bashing, it happens a lot in the subs, you guys know. I'm not going to include that. That's just not where we are as a culture. Any kind of hate speech that's included, I'm not going to leave that in, or shaming people for various things, like for their weight or for their clothing, unless it's a joke, or for, that kind of stuff is usually because it's just a different culture. And I feel like, especially with the fans that we have, I don't want to insult our fans right out of the bat. So, yeah, it's interesting to hear your perspective. So thank you for answering that.
Yeah. So my question's kind of a corollary to what we were talking about so how do you guys feel about having to work on censored scenes, where they remove scenes or change parts? Because I know in Sailor Moon, the relationship between Uranus and Neptune, they kind of censor that in some ways for Western audiences. And so how do you feel about having to kind of work around those scenes?
We work on the redub.
So there's the original dub for Sailor Moon back in the 90s, censored all that stuff. They made Uranus
Whole
and Neptune
episodes
cousins.
were missing.
They had things cut out, a lot of stuff. The version, so in 2014, they decided to do a redub of that, which was closer to the Japanese, so nothing is cut from that. So that's the version we're in. So yeah, if I was in that version, I would probably feel weird to be like, oh, but I know they're not cousins, and that's creepy. I'm not that close to my cousin. But luckily,
the
we don't have-
lesbians are lesbians.
right in our version.
In our version.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
This will probably be our last one because I think we're almost out of time.
Okay.
My question is for Jamie, and that's what was your favorite part about writing the Ente-Isan language?
How much everybody loved it. The Inta Isle language for Devil is a Part-Timer. You guys, I sort of like made up an entire language. It's whatever. It was very tedious and it was horrible. It was a lot of like trial and error. I used, because not only did I have to write a language, I had to do something that was easy for the actor to also say in the booth. So I tried to use the same vowel sound. Like if you watch the DVD extras, it explains, it kind of goes through a lot of what I did to make this extra language. It was really funny too, because when we got the translation, the subtitle, or the video and everything, they were like, okay, so there's this language well, what are they, well, we have the translation of what they're saying, but we don't know like how they're saying it. And so you get to make up a language. I get to. That's so fantastic. However, as challenging as it was really fun, and I'm very proud of it, and it was a great experience. But the thing I'm most happy with is the reception of it. People really love it, and they want to learn it. And I'm like, that's not possible, because it's a lot of substitution of letters, but the consonants stay the same, so that the actors knew how to say those vowels stay the same, so that they know how to say the vowels. The consonants would switch out, sounds would switch out. And it kind of always sounded kind of Eastern European in my head, so it was really cool. Then it came out sounding Eastern European. So, but yeah, definitely the appreciation for it is, I'm assuming you appreciate it based on the fact that you asked, because otherwise that's awkward. But yeah, that's what it is.